All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Coach Monken's weekly press conference here at NOAC Auditorium. As the Black Knights get set to take on UTEP this Saturday with a 3:30 p.m. kickoff on CBS Sports Network and the Army Sports Network. Coach will start with an opening statement and then take questions in here at NOAC and then those joining us via teleconference. At this time, I'd like to introduce the head coach of the Black Knights, Jeff Monken.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be coming back home this weekend, and after being on the road for a couple of weeks, and the road has not been good to us, unfortunately. To be here another trip home with a disappointing loss, and it was a heck of a game, and really credit Tulane and the job that Willie Fritz did, his staff, Jack Curtis, their defensive coordinator, and in defending us, and Doug and that drive at the end, they just did a great job. I mean, it was a real battle, and we got down early with the big play right out of the box, and we answered that with our first play being a negative yardage play and having to punt on the first drive. It was not a good start, but I was really proud of our team and in battling back and taking the lead 10-7, and we gave up another big play and down 14-10 at half. But our guys didn't they didn't stand around and point the finger at each other and all those things that can sometimes happen. I think they realized that there were things we needed to do in every phase that could help us win the football game. And fortunately, in that third quarter, and almost the entire fourth quarter, we found a way to do that. We kept them off the board. We put together a great drive finally in the fourth quarter and scored a touchdown to take the lead. And as I said, credit the coaching staff, the players at Tulane. They put together a 19-play drive and scored a winning touchdown with less than half a minute to go. So awfully disappointing that we weren't able to come away with a victory, but it's something we've got to understand here, that our opportunities to win those games are going to be there, and if we don't grab the bull by the horns and go and win it, that we're going to be in a dogfight to the end. So hopefully we'll find a way to play better, execute better, play better fundamentally, make more blocks, make more tackles, and do a better job this week against an opponent that we know is very talented. We played them last year, and we were certainly in a very emotional state, having lost Brandon the week of this game a year ago, and I think benefited from just that emotional high that we were on, wanting to compete and wanting to maybe honor Brandon in a way that that was the only way we had to control our emotion, was to go out and play. So hopefully we can match our intensity from last year, and hope that we'll execute better and than we have in the last couple of weeks, and find a way to be able to win a football game.
Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Coach. Rich DeMarco, Army Radio. The fullback, you were without Darnell Woolfolk last weekend. I wanted to get your take on how you felt the group of fullbacks played. Andy Davidson over 100 yards, and Kalen Holt and Connor Slumka played well as well, it appeared.
I thought all three of those guys played an outstanding football game. And really, with Darnell in the mix there, all four of those guys, I think we're capable of playing any one of those guys at any point in the game. And frankly, it's a little difficult to figure out who to put in the game. And I don't think any one of them you look at and you say, well, he had a hot hand and he was really making runs. Every time we put a guy in there, he was making good runs and falling forward. And we got stuffed a couple of times with the B-back, but we were gaining yards most of the day with those guys. So I thought that was definitely a positive coming out of the game, and hopefully we can keep those guys healthy so we can keep that whole stable of backs ready to go.
And, Coach, I want to ask you about the play of Mike Reynolds. If you could talk about his improvement this year, and he played significantly on Saturday and made some plays in coverage.
He has, and he's had to play just with the depth at corner, or lack thereof. Mike's kind of been thrust into the starting role there, and not that he doesn't deserve it. He's really battled and really done a good job, and really proud of his progress. And there's certainly things that he would tell you he's got to get better at. We recognize those things, but he has improved, and been pleased with that improvement. I hope he'll continue on that path.
Thanks, Coach.
Go ahead, Joe.
Coach, Joe from WKDT, bringing it back to last week. Looking back at that last drive, I presume you've watched it a few times. I think Tulane's probably etching it in stone down there in New Orleans. What did you see? Did you see points where it could have been stopped? Did you see points where plays could have been made, or were they just on a roll that couldn't be stopped?
Sure. I mean, we had them in 4th and 8 or 4th and 7,
right.
and we had a rush and just you got to pick. You got to pick what you're going to do. You can rush 6 or 7 guys and play man-to-man coverage, and hope that the guy, can't get it off to one of those receivers quick enough. If he can, that's troublesome too. It might go for more than 8. It might go 80 right off the bat. And so we rushed 4, and our guys did a great job in the back end. They had them all covered. We dropped our mic into the middle of the field. For the routes bending in from the outside into the middle of the field, and where he's going to have a throw. You obviously have contained rushers, and it's going to be hard for him when he's got to hold the ball for a while to throw it out to the perimeter. But that leaves the middle of the field, and we had a guy drop pretty deep. And on the run, we had guys pursuing it. We were probably a little late pulling the trigger on pursuing it, and we might have been able to buddy tackle him there with a yard to go, and credit him, he made a good run. A lane opened up, and there's 5 offensive linemen in there, so there's 6 gaps, and we had 4 rushers, so that's 2 open gaps, and you hope you can restrict them and close them down, and we didn't, and we forced them out of there. And then the second 4th and 3, they hit a little slant route in there. We didn't do a great job executing. We tried to put pressure on him in that one. We rushed 6. And he got rid of it quick, so that's just exactly what happened. Everybody came, he threw the ball quick on a slant route, and we should have been there denying it a little bit better than we were. And there were times, he had one play where he got flushed, and he ran all the way out to his right, and then all the way back into the pocket, and over to his left. And as he's getting drugged down, he kind of throws a pass that flutters out there at one of his receivers, and the kid almost caught it, but had we sacked him, he would have been in a 3rd and 17, or 2nd and 17. It would have put them in an awfully tough situation with 3 downs to gain 17 yards. Instead, they had 3 downs to gain 10, and that was the one on the 4th and 3. So if you make them lose 7, it might have been 4th and 10 on that last play, just depending on what happened. So there were times where we had a chance to get them stopped, but a 19-play drive is pretty impressive. And they did a good job blocking us and executing and making plays, and right down to the last touchdown. Again, we had a chance there. We had an extra defender to that side of the field, and we didn't play it very well, executing our assignment and our fundamentals. And that's the responsibility of us as coaches to make sure our guys do it right, and that's what we got to do.
Okay, speaking of responsibilities, last 2 weeks a number of big plays, both by Ohio State and by Tulane. Have you noticed something wrong, or is it they just getting lucky?
Well, the 2 runs on Saturday was just a matter of not fitting our gap correctly. So, and there's some safety nets there, but the first one was a counter play. They pulled the guard. We didn't see the guard pull, and we should have seen the guard pull and just followed the guard right to the gap, and we would have at least had a free hitter. Now, he might have made us miss, but we had a free hitter to the ball. And then on the back end, we took a poor angle. We were in cover 3. We took a poor angle with the free safety, and the kid just flat out ran us. He outran us. He's faster than us. And if you're not as fast as that guy, you better take a really good angle to keep him in front of you. And we had opportunities on the back end. We got to get off of the stalk block, and that's what I guess that was the second one, the long run, where we took the poor angle. We had a corner fire on the second long run, and we didn't get off the stalk block, and just using good fundamentals, using good techniques. And again, we gotta make sure that we practice those things enough so that our guys can do it. And sometimes you just get beat. Sometimes you get whipped and you get blocked and you can't get off a block. But not being where we're supposed to be is the responsibility of everybody in the program, starting with me, and making sure that our coaches are coaching our guys to do that and our players get in the right position.
Okay, so putting that aside, now we come up against an 0-4 team that Army just literally tore to pieces last year. A breather in the schedule?
Oh, yeah. We got breathers at Army all the time. But we don't have a guy on our team that got recruited by UTEP. So just put it in perspective. We take all those teams from Texas. We don't have anybody in our room got offered scholarships by those guys. So we got no breathers. We're going to have to play our butts off to even have a chance to be in the game with these guys. These guys are going to be big and fast and talented. Again, you want to have a wrestling competition. They got a lot bigger guys than us. They're gonna outweigh us. You want to have a track meet. Their relay teams probably beat ours, but I just hope we can have a team that executes, and if we do that, we'll give ourselves a chance.
Go ahead, John.
John Scheidler, Spectrum News. Coach, when you're preparing for a team that's played 3 or 4 different quarterbacks, what do you look at and what challenges does that present?
Well, I think you look at what each one of them does, what they're good at, and maybe what their offense does with each one of those guys. You can start there. But they've also got, an offensive line and a group of running backs and receivers and tight ends, and they're not rotating different guys in with those quarterbacks. They've got a philosophy of what they want to do on offense, and so that's the other thing, is just looking at what's their bread and butter, what do we have to defend, what do they do best, and what are they running more than anything else, and defend those things first. Any of the problem areas, whether it be a position group or a formation or whatever it may be, getting those things fixed in practice so that they don't creep up and get you in the game on Saturday because you're not prepared. So it's hard. It's hard when you got multiple guys that do different things, but I think preparing our guys for what we're going to see most is what we'll need to do.
And just from an injury standpoint, do we have any updates right now on England, Darnell, some of the other guys that were out or didn't play too much last
I don't
week?
anticipate either one of those two guys playing this weekend. Darnell would be a lot closer, but it's going to be a matter of seeing how he progresses. He's made great progress from a week ago, but we're not counting on those guys right now.
And how'd you feel about from on the defense, a pre-snap standpoint of Gibby and Max having guys in position, just the team being lined up at the right way with Ryan out there has kind of been almost like the quarterback of that defense the last couple of years.
Yeah, they did a good job of getting themselves positioned correctly. I thought James played a really good football game, played very physical, and I was proud of his effort. And Max, for the first time being out there, I thought did a really nice job. As I said, on the second long touchdown that Joe was asking about, he took a very poor angle. The guy popped out of there. Again, we weren't positioned where we needed to be. The first one was a counter play. The next one was just a zone play. And the kid kind of wound it back, and he was off to the races. And he could have taken a good angle to keep it to a long gain rather than a touchdown, and we could have gotten off a block to make a play. We didn't, but he had some errors like that, and those are things that we got to correct, and we will correct.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sal.
Oh, Coach, the throw into the end zone, is that a gut feeling, or is that what analytics tell you? Or
No, I mean, so the formation we were in, we had run out of that formation a couple of times already in the game. The guy that was covering the receiver was on the line of scrimmage, and he was the pitch player. The backside safety was running really flat, and really there was nobody to cover him. And, again, we practiced the route. We're running a certain way just from a technique, and I'm not going to tell you what that is because our opponents will see. But we didn't use the same technique, our fundamentals, when we ran it in the game that we did all week when we practiced it, and I kind of think helped them realize that something else was going on. But I mean, really nobody should be able to cover that route. And you got a guy covering you man-to-man from on the line of scrimmage, and you run right by him using good technique, it's going to be hard to cover him. So we had gone down there a couple of times already and got stopped on 4th down trying to run the ball, and it was 3rd and 3, and we were going to go for it on 4th down. And we say, you know what, let's take a shot at it right now. We're going for it on 4th down anyway, and it's a route we thought would be there, and I still think it would be there. And unfortunately, we didn't do a great job with the route portion, and we probably underthrew it just a little bit and a little late maybe, and the kid made a heck of a play. But it's not the fault of our kids. They're trying to make a play. Ahmad's trying to make a play, and Asbury's trying to make a play, and the margin for error is 0. I mean, we don't have any margin for error. You got a guy that's 6'5" and got a 40-inch vertical. Line him up there and throw the ball up in the corner of the end zone. He probably goes and gets it. We don't have that luxury, so we got to find ways to do that. And we thought it was a good call at that time in the game, and I still think it was. I mean, it's a lot easier to do that when nobody's covering you, throw it to them, than hammering your head against the wall, running the zone option like we'd tried a couple of times. So,
your concern level for the offense. What is your concern level for the offense right now, not being able to put the ball in the end zone? Not converting those 4th and shorts. I mean, those were big plays. To be down there on 4th down twice in their territory and not make it, come away with nothing, that's a big concern. And then turning the ball over, throwing the pick there, and probably had we made a couple more 4th downs, we would have the confidence to go ahead and just hammer it down in there. And so that's a couple of opportunities for points that we didn't get, and that's the concern. But I mean, if you watch us play, our kids played hard. They played physical. The drive for the touchdown with 5.5 minutes to go was a great indication of what we're capable of. And we made errors throughout the game. The opening touchdown when it's 7-0, we punt to them. It's 3 and out. They're punting from the 11-yard line, and we jump off sides on the punt. Well, they make a couple 1st downs, and then they punt the ball to us, and we take it over at the 3. So instead of them punting from the 11-yard line, and we get it maybe midfield or so, they're punting into the wind, we get the ball at the 3-yard line. It's a lot harder to go 97 yards than it is 50 yards. And we got 3 points out of that drive when we drove it off the 3-yard line. But we drove it far enough that if the ball was on the 50, we might have scored a touchdown. Now, different calls in different parts of the field, but for us, I mean, we're running the football. So it's hard to put a 97-yard drive together every single time. Those are things we got to correct as a football team. And we could have 3 and outed them again, when they got the ball at the 26-yard line, I guess it would be after the 15-yard penalty. But they got a few 1st downs, and that's when the quarterback punted the ball on 4th and 9 and pooched it down there, and we got to be able to drive down and get a touchdown. So we didn't hit a bunch of big plays. Had a couple of long runs. Andy had the long run to set up the touchdown by Ahmad. We had the long run by Kell out of the shotgun, and but that gives you an indication that their Mike linebacker ran us down and tackled us. They were fast. They have very athletic, fast football team. So I don't have concerns other than what you said. We got to get more points. 17 points isn't enough to win a game.
All right, we'll open it to those joining us via teleconference. Please state your name and organization and ask your question.
Yes, this is Charles Grievous with GoBlackKnights.com. Good afternoon, Coach. Obviously a tough loss last Saturday, but if you were to point to one or two key fundamentals that you feel were missing from the team's performance on Saturday versus Tulane, but now you may be spending time this week practicing to attempt to rectify those particular fundamental issues, what would they be?
There were a couple times on the perimeter. We had one fourth down where we ran we had been running the zone option, and Bradshaw had gained some yards. In fact, we hit a couple of decent runs, 15, 17 yards with Ahmad carrying the ball around the corner. And when you get in fourth down and it's short, and you're expecting they're going to pinch some guys in there, which they did, to get the ball to the perimeter is oftentimes a good call in short yardage. And we didn't sustain a block on the perimeter once. We didn't block the right guy. I don't know how, but we didn't block the right guy on one of them. And those are fundamental things that we've got to be able to execute. We missed 19 tackles on defense. We missed 15 against Ohio State. So, I think people look at and say, well, gosh, Tulane's going to be easier to defend than Ohio State. Why? I mean, their guys made us miss 19 times. Either we missed a tackle trying to tackle him and he ran through us, or just in space, he kind of broke us down and made us miss. We got to tackle better. We got to get people to the ground. We've got to make the plays when we've got opportunities. When the quarterback's pulling the ball down and running it, and fitting those guys on the pursuit angles, the long run, taking a better pursuit angle. Offensively, not turning the ball over. This is, again, second game in a row we've turned the ball over and the other team didn't. We can't turn the ball over. A year ago when we had 6 games we didn't turn the ball over, we won every single one of those games. Last year we had, I think, 5 games where we had 2 turnovers or more, or 2 takeaways or more. We won every one of those games. So we're not taking the ball away. We haven't done that in 9 quarters, and we've turned the ball over 3 games in a row. And it's going to cost you when you do that. So.
Okay, thank you. My follow-up question is, with so many starters out last week, even the prior week, you had to rely upon the depth of the team, perhaps more than you like. But that being said, have there been any of the rookies, meaning freshmen, that have caught your attention relative to their game contribution so far?
Well, let's see. I think as I think about it offensively, I think Cam Harrison's been doing a good job at wide receiver. He's a physical kid for a young guy, and I've been impressed with him. Fred Cooper's gotten a lot of time at slot back, and I think he's improved every time he's played, and I expect he'll continue to improve. We're really not playing a whole bunch of other freshmen. We kind of working some of those freshman tight ends in, and I would anticipate that as the season goes along, we'll probably see a little bit more of those guys. And then defensively, Javari Bordeaux played a lot on Saturday, and I think it was good to get him in there and let him get his feet wet. And you're going to learn to play by playing. And Cam was the starter, and we slid Javari in there a couple of times and let him play some, and I thought it was good for him. And Cam had a couple of struggles at times just getting guys to the ground, and I think it got him calmed down and gave the coaches an opportunity to talk with him and let him kind of stand there and watch and be coached from the sideline and talk about angles and talk about technique, and then get him back in the game. So I thought that was positive. Again, there's not a whole bunch of other freshmen that are getting significant amount of time, but one guy that probably goes unnoticed is Kyle O'Connor. He's our short snapper on PATs and field goals, and I think he's done a really good job with that. It's a lot of pressure. First time he played in a game was against Ohio State. He's an Ohio kid, and to go in there and do that there was pretty impressive. So I think we got some good young guys in our program. What we're fortunate to have are some veterans, some guys that have played quite a bit of football here that, though they may not have been offensive, defensive starters and been special teams guys, we've kind of been able to slide them up the depth chart.
Thank you very much.
John Kikas of the Associated Press. Coach, Ali Villanueva of the Steelers is an important player for West Point. Is there any sense of pride of what's happened over the weekend at the university?
We're proud of Ali and everything he does. He's a great representative of this university, this football program, the United States Army, and there's no action that guy has taken that hasn't made us proud. So, I'm not going to talk politics. This is a football press conference, and so I'll leave that to other people to make comments on. But I've coached a lot of guys in that league that are still playing in that league that I coached at Georgia Southern, and I don't know the exact number, but when we started preseason camp this year, I think there were 9 or 10, and I'm proud of every one of those guys, just as proud as I am of anybody I've ever coached. So we're proud of Ali. He's a great guy. He's spoken to our team, and I can't think of a better guy to have represent our program, our institution, and the United States Army in the NFL than that guy.
Was there any talk among the team members since that happened?
No, we're talking about UTEP. We got enough things to worry about here.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Hi, Coach Ken Kreitzer with Sons of the American Legion Radio. Just so I'd go back to special teams again for a moment. Blake Wilson had a long field goal. Nick Schrag had a couple of good punts, and his kickoffs are deep. And Kel Walker's been having some good returns. Do you feel like your special teams are making progress?
We're making progress. We still got some things we've got to do better. I've been really pleased with the specialists, the snappers. I mentioned Kyle O'Connor, but the guys kicking it, Blake, hitting that field goal was really positive, especially after missing the one at Ohio State. Just great to see him step in there and knock that thing through. And Schrag's become very valuable, both as a kickoff guy and as a punter. And he's punting it better. He still can be a little more consistent. That's something he and I talked about just yesterday. But that's been a positive. Our returns have been a little bit hit or miss. We returned the one Saturday off the goal line and got 17 yards. I much prefer to see that thing go into the end zone and come out to the 25. With now the rules with the ball coming out to the 25-yard line, that becomes a pretty good return. I mean, if you look at the NCAA statistics, I think there's about 25 or 30 teams right now that average over 25 yards a kick return. That leaves 100 teams that don't average 25 yards a kick return. So your best bet's to let that thing go in the end zone, and we got to make some better decisions about that. But that's something we got to continue to practice, and we're going to practice it more. And strategically, that doesn't matter to me if people know that or not. But we've had a couple good returns. We had one good one against Ohio State. He should have left it in the end zone. He caught that one a yard deep too. We had a good one on Saturday. We popped out of there, and it's encouraging to see that. That's not something we did very consistently last year.
And Coach, just ask you about UTEP. They played 3 quarterbacks in each of the games so far. Their best runner has 78 yards in 4 games. What do you see in the UTEP offense that you're preparing for?
There's a lot of things that they do from a formation standpoint that can give you headaches. They change personnel groups and they change formations, and as you said, playing so many different quarterbacks, trying to figure out is it the same game plan with each guy. Likely it's not, because they would play the guy they felt was the best for the entire game plan. They're finding things that each of them do that add to their football team's success. So just the personnel groupings and the formations kind of keep your head spinning, and then defensively, having played our offense a year ago and being able to watch the game from a year ago, watch other people that have lined up in fronts that are similar to the one that they lined up in, and fit in the run and playing the pass and doing all those things. Just the experience of playing it. They got a lot of guys on their team that played in the game a year ago, and I think that makes a big difference when you defend this offense for a second time, especially in consecutive years, because you get the same players playing the same plays.
Coach, just going to ask you about Bryce Hahn. He went out of the game for a couple of plays. Do you feel like he's ready to play on Saturday?
Yeah, he'll be ready to play on Saturday. He's a tough guy that fights through a lot of nicks and dings and ankle sprains and bumps and bruises, and he's got plenty of those. And during leading up to the opening game, he had been out for a couple of weeks, and then since then he's just kind of been on and off. He, Brett Toth, Rick Kurz, Josh Boylan. I mean, all those guys, they take a pounding. Mike Houghton, he was out all of camp. And so there's some things that probably going to keep those guys from practicing full speed every single day, but not enough to keep them out of the game on Saturday. We expect all of those guys that I mentioned to be playing on Saturday.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, Brett Bloomquist from the El Paso Times. Kind of a big picture question here. Obviously, your program's in such a much better place now, a higher place than it was when you got there. How did you get it there, and how have the expectations changed?
Well, our players got it to where it is. They've worked really, really hard, and they've committed to being the best team that they can be. And I think that's just that belief in our locker room and that trust in each other is kind of the thing that's got it there, and it's going to be the thing that keeps it headed in the right direction, and that's a very fragile thing. Success certainly helps. We had a little bit of success last year, and that starts to set higher expectations. But I think it really started in 2015. Our second year, we only won 2 games, but we battled so well in so many games with a lot of young guys. A lot of those young guys now are starters on offense and defense. So that kind of set the stage for last year. We had a little bit of success, and we had some success early this year. And I think though we lost the game on Saturday, they can see that there's opportunities for us to win that football game, and we've got to find a way to do that fundamentally and through our assignments and by playing tough and playing hard, all the things we can control. And I think that's the expectation now, is to win when we take the field, not hoping, but believing we can.
You're coming in, obviously a huge favorite, 24-point favorite. Is that something your team's used to? Is it different playing when there's so much expectations to win?
Oh, our guys don't pay attention to the line. I mean, that doesn't mean it. That doesn't mean a thing here. We're fighting for our lives every time we play. I don't think people realize how difficult it is. It's a challenge. We have no margin for error, none. We've got to play every assignment correctly. We've got to play every fundamental the way it's been taught and coached. And if not, we got a chance to get embarrassed. And that's who we are. And I tell our kids that so they understand that. And it's no knock on our players. We got a couple guys on our team that I would take in a one-on-one matchup with anybody we play. I mean, there's some guys on our team that I think are really good players and physically match up with the guys they play against, either because they're physically gifted enough or they've just worked so doggone hard that they're in that position. But for the most part, I mean, it's like last week. They ran away from us twice on long runs. We busted some long runs and couldn't run away from them. There's a difference. And that's not any knock on our players. And I tell to our players, and they know I'm not trying to hurt their feelings. I'm going to tell them the truth, that we've got to play really hard, really well, with great effort, great fundamentals, great technique, and an intensity that our opponent can't match. That's the only chance we got to win. So I hope we'll put ourselves in position against UTEP this Saturday by doing those things. If we don't do those things, UTEP will beat the stuffings out of us.